There is a part of me that cannot believe that we are finally here. I am finally here. Welcome to my dojo, the dojo of your earbuds. I am your host, Brandon Knight, and this is Kung Fu Pizza Party. This has been a show that has been in the works for several years now, and I'm not even kidding. This has been something I've wanted to do for at least 3 years, possibly more. And there's this part of me that can't believe that I'm here right now recording the first episode. The fact that even the trailer dropped was amazing, but the fact that I am here to record the first episode and put it into your ears right now, I just can't believe we are actually here. In today's episode, I'm going to explain who I am and what this show is. This is so different from what I'm used to doing, what my podcasting has been like for the past 3 years, to have a show like this. So here we go. I get to talk about something completely different, my life as a martial artist. So I am a lifelong martial artist, essentially. I've been in the martial arts for over 20 years now. I hold the rank of black belt in Taekwondo, Jeet-Kune-Do, Hapkido, and Ninpo Taijutsu. Currently, I have a part-time job with my local YMCA as a ninja coach for their Ninja Zone program. If you're unfamiliar with Ninja Zone, it's basically American Ninja Warrior for kids. It's a combination of martial arts, tricking, parkour, and gymnastics all rolled into one for basically elementary age kids. The original goal was to make gymnastics a little bit more appealing to boys. So boys and girls can train and compete in Ninja Zone, and I'll be talking about that more as the show goes on. But it's been a wonderful little job. You know, I'm definitely of the mindset and of the perspective that the martial arts is like a lifelong pursuit. It's a lifelong training thing, and so I consider myself a lifelong student in the martial arts and in other things as well. But also, having done this for over 20 years now, and with the rankings that I hold, I definitely was getting to a point in my life where I was like, it's time to start like teaching and giving back. I've been a student instructor in class before, but like I definitely was feeling like I think I'm at this point for sure where I can start giving back and start training the next generation. So it's definitely a different environment with the whole like parkour and the gymnastics elements to it. Definitely, I'm learning a lot along the way of being able to teach. I'm also learning how to teach, but also learning like how to do some of the gymnastic stuff as well. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Along with the martial art training, I am also a lifelong lover of martial art media, particularly kung fu movies and 90s Jackie Chan movies. As a kid in the 90s, I watched on repeat Rush Hour, Mr. Nice Guy, Jackie Chan's First Strike, Operation Condor, Twin Dragons. That was his. Double Dragon is a movie, but Twin Dragons was the one where Jackie Chan plays his own twin. And I can't even tell you how many times I've seen Rumble in the Bronx. I have watched Rumble in the Bronx more times than I probably have done a lot of other things in my life. That was like one of my favorite movies. And honestly, this was my love of Jackie Chan was one of the things that my parents used to get me into the martial arts in the first place. They told me if I trained in Taekwondo, I would be like Jackie Chan. Now, they never did teach me how to fight people with jackets and ladders and things like that. But, in hindsight, definitely did not train me to be Jackie Chan. But that was the thing that they used. They were like, hey, you want to be like Jackie Chan? The YMCA here in town is going to start offering Taekwondo. You could be like him. My love for the martial arts was also sustained by one very particular show, and I did mention I was a 90s kid, so you're probably thinking Power Rangers, maybe one of the versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but actually it was option C, Samurai Jack. I was that like late 90s, early 2000s kid, and I freaking loved Samurai Jack. Does not get enough praise and love from that like late millennial, early Gen Z group. Like that show hits different. I love that show still to this day. Definitely a top 10, probably a top 5 cartoon from my childhood if I actually sat down and ranked them out. And of course, yes, you can't be a martial artist and also cannot have trained in Jeet Kune Do without some point going through a Bruce Lee phase. I mean, we all are in our Bruce Lee era at all times, right? Like, we're never not in a Bruce Lee phase, but Bruce Lee definitely became a big influence in my life. When I was in high school, that's when I trained in Jeet Kune Do. I bought all the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's fighting methods, his book on Wing Chun. I read his books. I watched his movies. I was training in Jeet Kune Do. Like, I was living and breathing Bruce Lee in my during my high school days. Still do. Obviously, Bruce Lee is a big influence in my life still to this day, and that takes me to this show. This takes me to right now. Like, that's kind of like my journey in the martial arts as it is. Part of my life now is starting to get more into teaching and to get more into books, the book side of things. I've always been, outside of like all the Bruce Lee books I've always had a very thin library when it comes to the martial arts, the martial art portion of my library. And so kind of in this point right now where I'm like, I think it's time to start like bulking this up and like building my library to have more than just my favorite Bruce Lee books. Have more of a intellectual side to my martial art training, if you will. So that takes me to this show, right? What is this show? So the name of this show actually comes from something that happened when I was in college. It's a goofy name, right? Kung Fu Pizza Party. So when I was in college, I was on the leadership team for my dorm, trying to have dorm events, right? And my buddy and I, who was part of this group, we wanted to host an event to get everybody's mind off of finals. It was like time for final exams, final projects, things like that. Everyone's stressed. Everyone's in their dorm room hiding away, studying. And we're like, okay, we need to do something to bring everybody together, give everyone a chance to relax. And my buddy looks at me and goes, Brandon, you like Kung Fu movies, right? And I was like, yeah, I like Kung Fu movies. He's like, yeah, Kung Fu movies. What if we Kung Fu? Yeah, that's what I said. So what if could you find some really funny Kung Fu? It's Kung Fu, Shane. This is the conversation going on. Even though he was a butt munch and kept saying Kung Fu instead of Kung Fu on purpose, the idea was we would pick a really funny, really just dumb Kung Fu movie and buy as much pizza as physically possible and just make it available to our whole townhouse. Just hey, the movie's going to be on at 7. We got pizza. We'll put a little bowl out if you don't mind just throwing a couple bucks in to help us cover the cost of pizza. Grab some pizza, hang out and watch the movie. It's going to be a great time. And you know what? It was a great time. Guys would come out, either some guys came out for the whole movie. Other guys would just kind of pop in and out, grab pizza, hang out for a couple minutes, whatever. Guys who never did anything, never would come out to any of the events that we planned, came out for this. And you're dying to know, okay, so what comedy Kung Fu movies did you pick? Well, the good news is that this was so popular, we got to do it twice. One of the times, I can't remember which one came first. One of the times we watched Kung Pao Enter the Fist, which is a ridiculous, I wish this was still a trend in cinema. It's one of those movies where they took a old public domain Kung Fu movie, I can't remember it now, I think it's Crane Fistway or something like that. And they redubbed it, inserted a couple actors into it, and created a whole different movie. It's ridiculous. For all you early 2000s people, it's by the same guy who did all the Thumb movies, Bat Thumb, Thumbtanic, Franken Thumb, Thumb Wars. He did all those movies. He did this one as well. It's utterly ridiculous. The other one we did is arguably one of the, at least in my opinion, one of the best and most underrated Kung Fu movie actors of the early 2000s, Stephen Chow's Shaolin Soccer. Kung Fu Hustle is one of my favorite movies of all time, period. But Shaolin Soccer is kind of if you're going for more comedy and hangout is the better pick, whereas Kung Fu Hustle is like, that's another one. It was on Spike TV a lot when I was in middle school, and I watched it every time it was on TV. So like, I loved the movie. But if you're looking for like a comedy hangout movie, I think Shaolin Soccer was the better pick for this scenario. And again, they loved both of them. And we branded the event as Kung Fu Pizza Party. And that name has always stuck with me. Kung Fu Pizza Party. I just love it. I love the title. And when I decided to get into podcasting a couple years ago, and I was brainstorming different ideas, one show that I had kind of tossed around was to start a show that would review and celebrate the films of the kung fu, ninja, samurai genre, or action movies that have like really good martial art choreography in them. I came up with that idea, ended up going a different route. I have a different show called My Seminary Life, which is all about like my Christian faith and theology and ministry stuff. But this other shows I had come up with kind of like faded. I brainstormed constantly of other ideas that I could do, because podcasters either find one show that they devote their entire life to, or that it becomes an addiction like a tattoo, and you have to constantly get more tattoos or constantly start more podcasts. It always just kind of like gnawed at me a little bit of like, you're going to start a Kung Fu movie review podcast at some point, and it will be called Kung Fu Pizza Party. And here we are. This is it. This is the Kung Fu Movie Review Podcast. Now, like I just said, and also in the trailer, this show is going to include Kung Fu movies, both, you know, the all-time greats like Enter the Dragon, Drunken Master, current great films like Ip Man. Like, it's going to have those. It's going to have ninja and samurai flicks, which I'm very excited for, because I have not really watched very many of those kind of films. Ninja, I've seen a handful of. Samurai, honestly, I have not spent that much time in the samurai film genre, so I'm really excited to start watching more of those movies. And of course, it's going to include all those gritty grindhouse films in between. I cannot wait for all of my brothers to come on the show to talk about Phantom Raiders. This is one of the best, grungiest, just cheesy films that we used to stay up and watch. I can't wait to talk about that movie. It's going to be so fun. Along the way, I'm probably going to talk about TV shows as well. Obviously, there will be at some point episodes devoted to Samurai Jack. I might even dabble here and there with episodes related to books as well. I've got a couple picked out that I think would be great. I would love to sit down with, I think his name's Dayton Ward, who wrote the Kirk Fu book. It's like a book all about how to fight like Captain Kirk from Star Trek. Because that would be a really interesting conversation on like fight choreography then and now. I think it would be a really fun conversation to have. We'll probably do some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff along the way. Gonna have some guests along the way. And I'm excited because I think this will be also a way for me to become like more well-rounded within this genre and this community. I know the big name actors, and we're going to talk about Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa. We're going to talk about like all the usual suspects, right? But my hope is that if you're looking for like a show that's going to get into like the super nitty gritty, here's this director who did these movies and the fight choreographer here, and the, you know, these are the Golden Harvest movies that everyone should watch that nobody has seen. I'm not there yet. I'm sure that podcast does exist. I'm sure that Facebook community exists somewhere. I'm not quite there yet. My hope is that in time, I will get to that point and we'll be able to have like very like, okay, we're going to have this very niche conversation to talk about, you know, this guy who directed these movies and his style. I'm just not there yet. I'm excited to get to that point though. Like I said, very much a student. I am a student in mind. I've see myself as a student in the game, always learning. Just don't be a jerk when you're trying to teach me something. That's my only like prerequisite. Don't be a dick when you try to teach me something. Be respectful, please. And I will be more respectful if you treat me like not an idiot. That I would appreciate that. It's kind of nice having a podcast where I don't feel like I have to be like super respectful. I will be respectful. Obviously, I took Taekwondo, so like, integrity, self-respect, all those things are like baked into my subconscious. But what about this pizza part? So that's like the movies, the books, the TV shows. Obviously, we're going to get into those things naturally. That's like the whole thing. But what about the pizza part? Am I eating pizza right now while I'm recording the episode? No, probably will happen every once in a while. And is it my dream to have like a Kung Fu pizza party event like at a pizza place? Obviously, let's all meet up at Chuck E. Cheese sometime. We'll talk Kung Fu movies and have a skee ball competition, whatever. But like, when it comes to this pizza party part, that's kind of where some of the gimmicky stuff is going to come in. So, as you may have noticed in the trailer, here at Kung Fu Pizza Party, I am promising to you to deliver episodes in 30 minutes or less. So, according to my clock, we are currently at the halfway point. We are at the 16-minute mark, so we are definitely coming in for a landing. Why would I choose to limit myself to just 30 minutes per episode? 2 reasons. 1, Domino's. It's part of the pizza gimmick. 2, here's the other thing about short podcasts. That's what I like. I like short podcasts. When I see that there's a show and they have 2-hour-long episodes, I don't care how good the show is. I lose interest. I'd rather watch a movie. So I am planning on doing shorter episodes. It really works with my schedule as well when it comes to recording and producing content. I'm a one-man gang kind of thing. So that is the goal, is to get you episodes in 30 minutes or less. Another way that this is going to be very pizza-y, pizza-oriented, is that here at Kung Fu Pizza Party, we're going to be serving up wisdom one slice at a time. You may have caught that in the trailer. Allow me to explain that. Every time we do a movie review specifically, my goal is to find one line, one thing. I know I'm setting myself up for failure with some of these super cheesy movies that are out there, but I'm hoping to find one line that's actually profound. In the most cheesiest, ridiculous of movies, I am hoping to find one line that actually is kind of profound and take a moment to chat over it. I don't think my plan is not to do this with every single episode. There's not one right now. Okay, there's not one coming in this episode. Same with like book reviews, TV show reviews. I'm not really going to hold myself to that as tightly. Interviews, if we're able to get to the point, because I totally, between you and me, I really want to get Cynthia Rothrock on the show. I'm really hoping to do that at some point, okay? But even with like interviews, I'm not really like going to hold that to the person to like come up with some profound statement for us to talk about. But when we do the movie reviews, which is the core of this show, to do reviews of kung fu, ninja, samurai, or heavily influenced martial art films, we are going to look for a slice of wisdom to digest together. And hopefully we all walk away a little bit more holistic as a person, because as all of the martial artists out there know, the martial arts is more than just learning how to beat people up. It's more than just punching and kicking. It's more than just training to win a fight, right? There is a holisticness to our training. There is mind, body, and spirit when it comes to training in the martial arts. And so there are times where there are actual like good Taoist, Buddhist, Confucius philosophies baked into lines. There is actual, like profound thoughts, Hinduistic thoughts or ideas baked into lines, baked into, just presentation of different things in the movies. And my hope is to find those little hidden gems, at least one a movie review, and to talk about it. So that way we can like become more whole people. There is a moralistic growth side, mind, body, and spirit side to the martial arts, and I am hoping to bring that out in this show as well. But is this going to be primarily me talking about how sick a fight scene was in a movie? Well, duh. Like that's gonna be the main focus is, hey, let's talk about how great this movie is. Let's talk about how cheesy this movie is. Let's talk about this fight scene. Holy cow, I can't believe that guy just did that in that fight scene, because I find I do that a lot when I watch Jet Li movies. He does ridiculous things sometimes in his movies. So that is Kung Fu Pizza Party. It is a show where I and hopefully every once in a while, a guest will sit down to review a kung fu movie or a ninja flick or a samurai flick or an action movie that's super martial arty. That would be like a John Wick or a Taken style film, and talk about how awesome it is. Talk about how great it is, and maybe get more familiar with certain directors and producers and actors and actresses that we're not familiar with, or choreographers. Look for those little gems, those little slices of wisdom to serve up and digest together. And every once in a while, talk about a great book, great series, character, whatever the case may be. All within 30 minutes or less, which means I've got some time to kill, but hey, I made it. First episode. We're hitting right around the 20-minute mark. So I made the goal at least once so far, which is making me feel great. Thank you for listening. At this point, I don't have a lot of the additional go into the description and find the link for X, Y, and Z. Of course, you can go and follow our Instagram page. There should be a link for that in the description of this episode. You can find our Instagram where you can get updates on the show regularly. You can also check out my other podcast. Again, it's called My Seminary Life, which is also a part of the Anazao Ministries podcast network, AMP for short. You can check out a whole bunch of other shows, a couple other geeky shows as well, if you're kind of like, if your geekiness extends beyond Kung Fu movies. There's also Systematic Geekology, which covers the whole gamut of geek stuff, especially anime. There's some anime stuff every once in a while for all you anime fans out there. There's also the show Why I Don't Like, where host Christian Ashley runs down things that, kind of rub him the wrong way. What's the Family Guy? What really grinds my gears? It's kind of like that. It's a little bit of that. So if you got more geeky taste beyond just Kung Fu, Ninja, and Samurai, go check those shows out here on Anazao as well. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kung Fu Pizza Party, where we are delivering high-flying action in 30 minutes or less and serving up wisdom one slice at a time.